What's going on?
Idol Identifiers back here, first dynamic duo video. Got a lot to talk about.
I know, like, I'm like friends with them, but friendships
Yeah, I'm a friendship here.
I'm done with it.
One day I'll show these bitch boys how to fucking play this game.
You know, like, people try to tell you, oh, I'm telling the truth. I'm telling you, nobody's telling the truth. Everybody's lying. And I'm gonna be the biggest liar of all, like always.
I'm gonna keep putting your rod straight to your face like time and time again, and I'm gonna keep doing it until they're done.
I'm approved by I believe I should be considered as the best player. I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is if I'm gonna win this fucking game.
But sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He always been faking me out. Can't make you happy all night. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He always been faking me out. Can't make you happy all night. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He always been faking me out. Can't make you happy all night. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He always been faking me out. Can't make you happy all night. You can't fight it, you can't breathe. You say something so loving, but now I gotta let you go. You'll be better off in someone new. I don't wanna be alone. You know it hurts me too. You look so broken when you cry. One more and then I say goodbye. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He always been faking me out. Can't make you happy all night. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He always been faking me out. Can't make you happy all night.
The winner of Survivor, Heroes vs. Villains, Season 2, Cody. The winner of Survivor, Season 3, Twist Manor, is Hunter. Champion of the Winner of Survivor Season 1 last. Christian, you fucking did it too. I'm so proud of you.
What's going on, guys? The Idol Identifiers back here for our Survivor Whitewater player comparisons video. I'm Christian, and here's Devin.
Yeah, I'm Devin. You know, we've been waiting to do this for a long time. You know, Survivor Whitewater is coming to an end, but we want to still make a few more videos to close the books on, you know, the exciting 10 seasons we did. So this is comparing, you know, our Survivor Whitewater top about 33 between me and Christian's rankings from that video from, you know, a couple months ago to the real show Survivor and CBS.
Exactly. And guys, keep your eyes out. There might be a little secret coming out here soon. Survivor Whitewater will forever be over, but that does not mean Survivor is done on Idol Identifiers. Let's get rolling here. At number 33, Maggie, our comparison for her was Allison. I mean, it's pretty simple. Maggie is a more quiet at first, but then out of nowhere, she'll start talking her crap, and she really comes out ready to play. She's a fierce competitor. in Devin.
Yeah, she's definitely similar in that she makes it pretty far as well. She might not be the main focus of the season or the main focus of an alliance, but she's pretty important to that alliance. We've seen it every time she's played. She's made it very far every time, and she was, a crucial vote for that alliance every time. And she definitely got better in Legends as best she played. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good comparison, and Maggie's a solid player for sure.
Definitely. All right, and number 32, we got Jadon there on the right. Beautiful picture. I mean, they even kind of look alike. I mean, come on, Jadon. Funny guy, always with the ladies, always around the ladies. Kind of similar to our guy, Vitas. Brother of Aris, one of the past winners of Survivor.
Yeah, Vitas and Jadon. Jadon, when he played in Winter War, he definitely tried going with the women more, like Vitas did in Second Chance, I believe, when he came back for a second time. They definitely are very social, but they also know how to make people uncomfortable, whether that be in a good way for that person or not. It's going to either, create, bonds or create enemies, as clearly Jadon, went after Griffin and stuff, which was awesome to see. And back in season 1, he went after me at the same time I went after him. So I think it's a pretty good comparison, and hopefully maybe we'd see Jadon in a new era if it's ever, happens.
And let's not lie, Jadon's an entertaining character. He's very funny, very charismatic, very similar to Vitas as well.
Yeah.
All right, and that 30.
You just skipped one.
31. Probably supposed to be 31.
You just skipped one. Go back one.
Is it?
Yep.
There we go. And at 31, we have Seth, really, to Gavin. Seth, it's pretty simple. You make a few moves in the game, and that's great. And that's pretty much what Gavin did. Made a few moves, and, feels like he's a lot bigger Survivor player than maybe he is.
Yeah, I think also they were solid competitors, both of them. Definitely, were pretty solid in challenges, and definitely had a big alliance with a girl that got pretty far, In One World, Seth obviously was with his girlfriend, Bailey, and Gavin in the real shows with this girl named Victoria. It was very similar situations where the girl might have played a little bit better than them, but Gavin and Seth tried making the big moves early and then got quiet towards the end of the game. But yeah, I mean, they're both solid players. Yeah.
Yep, pretty much. All right, now for number 30, our boy JP. He's just like Coach. If you hear the way he talks, the way he's just aura around him, he's able to attract people, wants to play a more loyal game, and talks about that. He always talks about the strength of the tribe, very similar to Coach.
Yeah, and I'd also say the last time JP played in Last Chance, he was in a alliance just like Coach was in South Pacific, where they had an alliance of about 3 people that went all the way to the end. And at the very end, I would say it's similar, where Coach didn't really own up to what he did. That could have maybe separated him from the other 2. And, a lot of people thought Collin played the best out of the 3, but JP, didn't really, I feel like, sell himself, or at least didn't want to admit some of the stuff he might have done that might have looked a little more slimy versus how he really wants to perceive himself on how he played. So I think that was similar too.
Yeah, for sure. They both got a little quirks to themselves that we all know and love, and I think that's also a similarity between the 2 as well. Yeah,
one of a kind.
So, very one of a kind human beings, both of them right there. So coming in at number 29, we got Dacota, and we felt that she was similar to Stephanie LaGrossa. I mean, intense female competitor, can sometimes cause a couple issues here and there. Dacota in our Survivor, really, especially in Winter War, couldn't keep her mouth shut and caused a lot of issues for a lot of people, including Collin. And that's the reason he went out, and it's just she's definitely a wild card for sure.
Yeah, and then in Battle Royale as well, I mean, her competitive side really came out. I know she's played basketball throughout high school, was pretty good at it, and that showed, and that's similar to Stephanie LaGrossa. Definitely sometimes let their emotions affect some things. As Battle Royale, there's some situations that happened which wasn't her fault, but definitely got brought up. And just like Stephanie, the same things happened when she played. Both very solid players that I think we need to see more. We wish we would have saw more of both of them in the Surreal Survivor and Survivor Whitewater.
For sure, definitely. In 28, we got Steph. We felt she, we could not figure out Steph for a while because she's a very one of a kind person, very one of a kind player. There wasn't anybody to a T, and then all of a sudden the name Collin came up, and it just clicked. Very smart players might come off quiet at first, but trust me, they'll come out to bite you right away, and they're there to play the game, and it's no different. And she plays the game a lot of times with a lot of the guys, believe it or not. And I think that's similar to Collin as well.
Yeah, I mean, Collin, when she played, she was kind of overshadowed by Dom in Ghost Island, which I think Steph was with Adam in Winter War. But when it came down to certain situations, I think Collin and Steph had an effect on what Dom and Adam did sometimes a little bit. And that, might have been a downfall of Dom and Adam's games a little bit. Yeah, definitely both silent assassins where you would think they might not speak up, but they will when it's time to make a move when they think it is.
Yeah, and I love seeing that from her, actually being willing to make that move, especially against some fierce competitors, some big-time competitors. She's never been afraid, so
yeah,
kudos there. 27, we got Bailey. She's literally Sophie. I mean, game style to a T, very similar. Both have been controversial winners. Devin, if you want to go, take it from there.
Yeah, definitely with Bailey and Sophie. I think for me personally, Christian kind of put this comparison out first, and I thought about it, and at first I was like, I don't know, and then I really thought about it, I'm like, yeah. Especially because when Sophie played in Winter War, it was just like when Bailey played in Battle Royale, because I played with Bailey twice, and in Battle Royale it was very similar where they came back after winning and definitely wanted to prove themselves, and were honestly one of the biggest targets in the game. Sophie was doing very well in Winter War, and she got blindsided, and the same thing
Winners at War?
Huh?
You're talking about Winners at War?
Yeah, that's what I said.
I said Winter.
Oh, yeah,
but it's okay.
Winners at War, yeah, same thing. Not really, but both good seasons. But yeah, Sophie was like one of the biggest threats out there towards the end of the merge, and same with Bailey and Battle Royale, and they both got blindsided. They both had chips on their shoulder, and they both proved they're pretty good players, even after some controversial wins. So
yeah, definitely for sure.
And they come off smarter than they might appear sometimes.
Oh yeah, 100%. Both of them very smart players, and they keep that under wraps to themselves. Yeah. Number 26, we got Dolphin Sam. There's not a picture here, apparently.
Right.
But we compared him to Davey. We'll edit that in there, a picture of him. But Davey from David versus Goliath, I mean, they're both very similar players. Dolphin Sam, sometimes he's quiet, similar to David. Sometimes he comes out ready to play. He's very smart. He's always waiting to make his move, trying to pick his moments and spots. And sometimes he doesn't pick the right moments, and that's kind of the same with Davey. But at the end of the day, they both have made very successful moves and have shown they have game. So
yeah, going off the successful moves, I mean, we saw in Fans Are Favorites Dolphin Sam find an advantage, pretty crazy spot, like right before Tribal, played it very perfectly. That kind of screwed up Corey a little bit. And Davey did that in David vs. Goliath, which helped his buddy Christian. He's like, I'm a little worried tonight, Jeff, but I'm a little more worried for Christian. And that was a really good move, and it was a highlight of the season. Same with Dolphin Sam. Yeah, I mean, Dolphin Sam and Legends, he just didn't have enough allies. Didn't have enough allies, and I think people viewed him maybe as just an easy vote, which sucks, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, also in Season 7, Fans vs. Favorites with Dolphin Sam, the biggest thing with him, he found the voodoo idol, and he got Cole to play his own to save him, and then freaked Corey out when he stole Cole's idol, and Corey played it for himself instead of Cole, and Cole ended up going home Corey's biggest ally. It weakened him to a point where Sam had a moment where he could have taken him down, and he didn't. But very, very cool. So moving on, we got Michael Garcia as from the new season 42 high. I mean, Michael was another one that's hard that we wanted to get right. I mean, Michael could have had pieces and parts from a lot of other people, but when Michael gets mad, I mean, you hear it, and he talks and he talks and he talks and he makes sure he talks his shit, at the end of the day. And High is very similar to that. And they're both very extremely strategic. They rely almost completely on their strategic play. They play very strategic usually early on in the game, and it usually gets them a big target midway, and they usually get out sometime early in the merge, and that's pretty similar to what High did.
Yeah, and I think as well,
I'll be right back.
I think as well with that, High and 42 wanted to pin two big threats against each other, which he tried doing with Jonathan and Mike in 42, which didn't really work. And then Michael, I think, tried doing that with Adam and Darius before, and it didn't necessarily work. I think Michael and High both just made big moves a little too early, and sometimes their allies just realize how good they are pretty quickly, which kind of sucks for them. But they definitely have to be on the right season for them to be successful as well, and they have to have a lot of things go right because they're both going to be bigger threats, especially if High would ever play again, which I don't know if he would, but if he would, I think people would be like, I remember him being really strategic when he played.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, moving next. 24, we got Kyle as Fabio. I mean, it's pretty simple. Kyle, a lot of time, is just very happy to be here, but there's moments where you see Kyle actually try to make some moves, and you're like, is he playing this way on purpose? And it's very similar to Fabio, I think. And Fabio ended up winning the game, and Kyle has come close to winning the game before he's taken second, and he makes it very far every time. So,
yeah, I think as well as it's kind of funny because Kyle shined in Twist Manor as well, even though he didn't get as far, just because he was a good character. And I think, and especially with that being kind of a bad season, we ranked at 10th in our season rankings. And same with Fabio, and a really bad season of Survivor. People rank Nicaragua season 21 pretty low, and that was a bright spot in that season. And they're just a joy to be around, and they make a game that's so stressful a little less stressful because of their quirks and being funny and just being themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And Kyle, we all love you, man. You're great. So,
yeah.
Moving on. 23, we have Ness, and we have her as Amber. She's young Amber, all-stars and before, like, stuff like that, not from Winners at War where she wasn't really able to do much. But, similar to how Ness has her boyfriend Darius in the game, she has played with them multiple times, and at the same time, she makes moves of her own. She's got her own kind of spunk to her, and she plays a lot of the game off just being a very nice girl. And that's how she builds her alliances, and people want to keep her around. And I think that's very similar to Amber's game.
Yeah, and I think she puts on a really nice face. She is a really nice person in real life, but she has a little devious side of her, which I think we didn't see a ton of that with Amber more early on when she played. Especially, too, a lot of people probably haven't really seen her in Australia, but she was a little more devious in that versus All-Stars because she was with, her boyfriend, Boston Rob, who she ended up marrying. And but the thing with Ness, and the only thing that's really different is Amber and Boston Rob, her boyfriend, was like this. Ness and Darius, when they played, they weren't aligned at all. So that's the only really difference, I think. But they're definitely really similar how they approach the game. And, yeah, for sure. I think it's a great comparison.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, moving to the next person. We got Tom, who we compared him to Hayden, or as Jervis liked to say, hey, done, when he voted him out. But, Tom was another one we wanted to get right. He can compete in challenges. He has a social game. He's an all-around good player, and I think that's pretty much what it comes down to with Hayden. They both never got over the hump to win. Just very similar personalities, quiet, but, like, when they speak, it's funny, and it's always entertaining.
Yeah, Tom was a really hard person to pick. There's a lot of different people I think he's like. Tom, has made the end twice, wasn't successful. I think if he maybe played in Legends, he could have changed that narrative. We'll never know. But they're both fun characters and, like, easy to root for. And especially Tom in Last Chance, last time he played, he made a pretty big move that I think a lot of people don't think he was capable of deciding and making. That was very smart, and Hayden did that as well earlier in Blood vs. Water, I think. Not as far in the game, but an important player. I'm pretty sure he got out, if I remember right.
Yeah, definitely. At 21, we have Bree, England. Compared her to Amanda. Amanda might be one of the greatest players ever to play, like, Legends-wise. She has made the Final Two multiple times. She's made the end. And they both play similar styles of being that really nice person, right to your face, but underneath they're planning something. They always are, with someone else, usually another girl, usually some type of Black Widow alliance going on. And they're just very similar overall players.
Yeah, I think as well, like, even, like, in their interviews, they might not even, like, admit what they're planning, but then it shows in the move they make. Similar to Amanda, taking out Ozzy, who she had a relation with, in a big season in the real show, and same with Bree doing that. Well, taking out some big threats when she played. Yeah, they both made the end twice, and Amanda wasn't successful and didn't win. Bree England did win, but they definitely play the exact same. Like it's crazy.
It's crazy. Like sometimes, like Amanda didn't even own up to some of her moves. Like she never owned up to Ozzy until like years after, and it's like, if you owned up to that move, you might have actually won. So
yeah, and I think Bree too. She won, but I mean, I was in that season. I was a part of the jury, and I think she didn't even own up to some of the things she did. Because I didn't vote for her because I wasn't really sure what she did.
By one vote.
Yeah, it was like 3-2-2, so it was really close.
It could have easily gone anyway, so definitely for sure. She did enough though, so congrats on your win, Bree.
Yeah.
Moving on here, we've got Lita Joe. We think she's like Jerry. I mean, to a T. She even had a show. Jerry even had a show match with Coach. Lita's dating JP. I mean, it's almost too perfect. Their play styles. I mean, both very, very, like, kind of devious girls that are not afraid to hide it. I mean, you never know when they're telling the truth, they're lying, and they play a hardcore game.
Yeah, and I think they might come off as villains sometimes, and then they might come off as heroes. They're pretty tough to depict sometimes what they're planning to do. And Jerry's made it pretty far every time, and Lita's, been a big target and made it pretty far as well. I think if Jerry played more in, like, a more recent Survivor season where there's more advantages, she would be even similar to Lita, because she played in the old school version, but they have the same pretty similar personality and pretty similar approach to the game.
Right, and I think they both were like one step away, or one person making a different decision away from making the final three. I mean, Blood versus Water, Lita very well could have easily made it had Emily, been stuck with her through and through. And at the same time, Jerry, it's a similar situation with Parvati had she, but Russell wanted her to go home, and I think that's a big deal because you come to find out when you pulled the jury from that season that they all would have voted for Jerry, and she would have probably won that season, Heroes versus Villains. And if you were to pull the Blood versus Water for us, I think it'd be pretty interesting to see. I think Lita over Vin. I don't know. I think Vin had a pretty good hold, but it would have been a lot closer for sure.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know for sure, if she would have beat Vin, but I remember a lot of people would have voted for it, sounded like, so who knows.
Exactly, because, I think all the people that ended up voting for Leah would have voted for Lita, and I think that if she was there in replacement, and I think it would have been interesting where Corey's vote went between Lita and Emily.
Yeah.
Though, I think that he still would have voted for Emily. So, moving on. We have Nathan. I mean, we had to give him two because we couldn't decide. When me and Devin met this guy, from the All Elusive Season 30, I promise you one day we'll do a video on it. But Dan Foley, we're like, this guy is literally Dan Foley to a T. Hilarious, has all these just quirky quotes coming around. But his Survivor career and his lovability as a character and how he is just such a hero, he's literally our Rupert. So we couldn't take away from either one of these. He is both. He literally looks like their kid if they were to have one. I mean, what do you think, Dev?
Yeah, I mean, Nathan definitely really friendly person, really likable, but like the picture on the bottom, can snap and speak his mind. Like, I remember in Blood vs. Water him getting so annoyed with Corey. He's like, I just want to fucking vote him off. I'm sick of him. I can't handle this anymore. He's not afraid to speak his mind. He's will say his opinion as someone's face and doesn't really care how they feel, but he's still a really nice person at the end of the day. And they, like Rupert and Blood vs. Water, they care so much about, who they're in a relationship with Kathy and Rupert with his wife, that matters more than the game clearly to them, and, that's how it should be at the end of the day for them.
Yeah, probably one of the funniest, devious quotes of all time when they're talking about everyone's scared of the Jersey Alliance, and the room just gets quiet when Nathan talks, and he takes a sip of his drink he has, and he just goes, well, they're not in Jersey anymore. And you know what? That was one of the most iconic Survivor Whitewater quotes ever. So, love you, Nathan. Can't wait to see you soon, buddy. Moving on. We got Devin's Collin. Another person we didn't want to get wrong. We want to make sure we implemented the Beast at challenges. But more so, we want to implement it with Collin is how literally every single person that meets this guy likes him. Because he's just such a likable dude. He's fantastic. And that's the way his game works, is everyone likes him. No one wants to vote out Collin. They want to work with him, and he uses that to his advantage.
Yeah, and Collin was tough. Like, I don't think he's like 100% spot on time, but that's the closest person we could find. And because Collin's such a nice person, and it's tough. Like, there honestly might not be a person exactly like him in Survivor. But Collin,
he's very original.
Yeah, he's definitely original, which that's what we like to find, in Survivor Whitewater. And, he didn't get one vote to his name in Last Chance, and he was very good in challenges. Same with Tom. They might not have been going against the best competition, but they won them when it mattered most.
Exactly.
They both won a season, so.
Exactly. So I think that's a perfect comparison in terms of art. I think that it's about as good as you're going to get with Collin. So moving on. We have Kathy. Very similar games. We think she's Sierra. Sierra's one of the better girl players ever play Survivor. Very smart. She plays her game. She's not afraid to play with the guys. She's not afraid to go against the guys. She's not afraid of anybody. She talks herself up, and she makes sure she holds her own in their challenges. She has her own rivalries. I mean, Sierra was very cutthroat, willing to vote out her mom. And I think Kathy played a similar game, although we never saw it come to fruition. We all know very well that when it came down to it, Kathy was going to vote out Nathan had she needed to. And let's just say those rules, that does not go both ways. So
right. Don't think Nathan would do that. Kathy definitely so similar where, also not to downplay how Kathy is as a player. I think she's really good. But how they both, Kathy and Sierra's first two times playing probably were really good, and everyone was like, wow, they're insane, and they still are really good players. And then their last time they played, from some unfortunate, they were just kind of picked as a easy vote, even though it wasn't. Like Sierra in a really all-star heavy season of Game Changer, she was like the first out, I think, because they just thought she was an easier vote, and they know she'd be up to something and being able to manipulate some people. And that's what kind of happened in Legends, where I know Christian, it was on Christian's tribe, I'm pretty sure. There wasn't really an option, especially because Darius left tribal. So it's not a downplay to them. It's just happened where they started so high and they might have went down a little bit in rankings and how people view them just because of some unfortunate things that were almost uncontrollable for them.
Darius leaving the tribal council, I mean, he was originally the vote that round, and it's just crazy to think how different that game could have gone had she been around. Yep. Also, one thing we forgot to mention with Nathan that we need to bring up, his Rupert comparison, where Rupert in the Blood vs. Water season he does with his wife, he's like, Jeff, I love to game a Survivor, but I love my wife more. That's pretty much what Nathan's attitude is when it comes to Kathy. Yeah. He's like, I can't vote her out. She'll literally kill me. Like, yeah. I love her too much. I can't do it. He loves Kathy more than anything. I think that's another perfect reason why Nathan's our Rupert. But, all right, moving on from Kathy. Idle Sam is Brad Culpepper.
Yeah, that looks
to a T. They have strategy. And I mean, I'm talking Brad Culpepper from Blood vs. Water, where Tyson won that season. I mean, not Dolphin Sam, Idle Sam. I mean, this guy, he was ruthless. He's screaming at a whole bunch of people. He's telling them they're idiots. And you know what? That's exactly what Brad Culpepper does. They might have an edgier side to them, but I love Brad Culpepper for a reason. I mean, he tied a record in the Real Survivor. He won 5 individual immunities in a season in the Game Changers. I mean, personally, I thought he should have won that season, although Sarah was a very deserving winner. So,
yeah, I think, and it's funny because Idle Sam, like the first time he played, he did make the end with my brother, and yeah, most people say my brother would win, but there's definitely some people that thought maybe he should have won too, which is similar, I think, with Brad and Sarah. So, and then, they kind of like played in reversal where Brad, how he played his first time was how Sam played his second time, which is funny. You know, they both, and Brad and Blood vs. Water and Sam and Last Chance, they kind of like were depicted as the lone wolf, and everybody felt like they were against him. So I think it also created Idle Sam and Culpepper to be more cocky, and they're both, played sports, and they both have that competitive side, which we love. Maybe Idle Sam should study how Brad played in Game Changers a little more, because I guess they're pretty similar. And I feel like Idle Sam might look similar to Brad when he's older, looking at the picture.
Honestly, I could totally see it. And you know what else is like? I mean, Idle Sam did almost win a season, and Culpepper, I mean, he almost won a season too. He took second place. So, and Sarah Lucina, they lost to someone basically who played a little bit more of a social game, and Sarah Lucina and Dylan. So I think that was pretty interesting as well. Definitely. So moving on, we have Bree Nevers, and I have her as Tina. I mean, they're both very similar in the sense they're. I mean, Tina Blood vs. Water went on a challenge tear, very similar that Bree Nevers did. I mean, with the comeback challenge and everything like that. They're very interesting in how they're actually pretty skilled in challenges. At the same time, they both won very early on. I mean, Bree won our first season, Tina won the second season of Survivor. So they had similar careers where they peaked very early, and it's just hard to get that reputation off their back since, although they did do well after on.
Yeah, I mean, literally both. And Blood vs. Water, they had Redemption Island with Tina, and in Bree and Blood vs. Water, they had Redemption Island, and they both won a couple of challenges, which is crazy to see. They had that knack for being good at some weird challenges, and they both do. Obviously, Bree's a lot younger than Tina, but they both bring that mother side to like some people. Like I know Bree tried bringing it with Richie and Twist Manor, and it might work, it might not. And they come off really nice, and they are really nice, but they also, will decide things on their own. They're not going to just stick to, an alliance, as we saw Bree do that in Blood vs. Water. Tried making something out of nothing. It didn't really work out for her in the end, but she tried to do something even though they might have not thought it through all the way.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And, no hurt feelings there, Bree, anymore. I'm over it. But, she did.
Yeah.
She's very nice and she's very believable, the same way Tina is.
Yeah.
But when it's time to make a hard move, they're not afraid to upset people. And, I think they're very similar in that sense. All right, so moving on. We got Rich Dog. And, I mean, Richie, I'm going to be straight up honest with you. It took me and Devin talked about you being so many different people for years. I mean, for years. A little bit of Abby Maria, a little bit of Ben Baum, but no. When we saw this girl, Marianne, during 42, we knew she was like you. And then she made it to the end, and I was like, dude, she plays the game similar to Richie. Chaotic. She kind of just randomly tells people stuff, and it somehow works out for her. And then but the difference is she's a little bit better than you at the final tribal council, obviously, or maybe her competitor was just a lot worse than you not a lot worse than your competitor at tribal council, because she was able to pull out the win versus Richie took second. But they are very similar players, for sure. So, Richie, you want to do good, study Marianne's game.
Literally, dude, it was cool watching. Survivor 42, it definitely made a comeback from 41 to 41. It was one of the worst seasons I've ever seen. Oh. And 42
was
yeah, it might be the worst. And 42 was a solid, probably middle of the pack season, maybe even a little lower than that. I'd have to, rank them. But
it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. And when I see that some of these people, like Marianne, I was like, that's so Richie. And then she was kind of the afterthought where they both were I feel like people are just going to vote me off just because they don't think I'm good at this game. And then they went on and kind of proved that they were. And then they kind of were forgotten about. And then they're like, fuck, Richie's still around? What the hell? Marianne's still around?
Yeah.
And Richie, is obviously a better challenge, probably competitor than her. But they both won that last challenge, the most important one. And they got to decide who competed in fire. It was fucking the same thing. It was nuts.
Yeah. That's the one thing I will say, Richie, is you definitely are way better at challenges than her. So if I had to give you a second person, I'd definitely say you're similar to Ben Baum just because of how chaotic you are. But at the same time, just the way you are, your persona, I mean, you put out a lot of love to this universe. You want everyone to love you back. And it's very similar to Marianne. And, there's times where, Richie could be a lot, as we saw Marianne be a lot for Jonathan at times. But at the end of the day, we all still have Rich Dog come around. And she's one of the most entertaining players. We knew she was going to come back for a season after the first episode, but no one thought she was going to win. It's kind of the same way with you with fans versus favorites. No one thought you were going to do that good. Then out of nowhere, you just surprised the whole world and proved them wrong. And I'm just so proud of you for that. And Marianne, a lot of people are proud of her as well. So it's the perfect comparison. So moving on. We got Jack Demet, and another person that was very hard. And I'm not going to lie, Andrew Savage kind of looks like your dad did. I'm not going to lie. But, I mean, it was really hard to do Jack because he's played so many times, and a lot of the times it's been very different.
Yeah.
So we try to look at the things that have been consistent every time, which is Jack is always ready to make a move, but he has never been able to, fully complete it to a T. And at the same time, he's a good competitor. He's a great challenger. He gets in good alliances, and he sticks to them. He's a great person to play with for sure. And I think that's something Andrew Savage definitely was as well.
Yeah, and I think when Jack with Winter War, he was with Dylan, and he, was in a really good alliance with Dylan, and he kind of got cut out short because he just kind of was the next person to go. And Andrew Savage, he was with Jeremy, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty certain they were. And second chance, and a little bit different. Andrew got blindsided a crazy move got blindsided, but they kind of got out in similar points where they thought they were in the majority alliance and maybe they weren't. And they have the same approach to the game where they really enjoy it and play their own style, and they hope it's going to work out. Some people might not believe in those kind of strategies, but they're definitely likable players and definitely give good speeches when they're in, their confessionals. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. And, I mean, Jack made the final three, so obviously he proved that it can work.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think Jack might be a little bit better at challenges in our universe compared to Andrew and the Survivor universe, for sure. Because Jack is very good at very odd things, and Survivor Whitewater has some odd challenges, to say the least. And I think they met Jack's talents pretty well.
Yeah.
So moving on, we got Sam. I mean, I felt like she was pretty hard at first to do, but then we thought of Kim, and it was like, oh, yeah, that kind of makes a lot of sense. Kim's a very nice, very upfront girl, and I feel like Sam's a similar way. I got a chance to play with her for a little bit, a few rounds, and very upfront, but at the same time, she's pulling strings when you don't even realize it because she's hiding it with a smile behind it. So behind the smile, there's all deviousness, and I'm sure, Devin, you'll speak to that more.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, it's funny because when Kim played, it was like a guy versus girl season, and that kind of came into fruition. And yeah, honestly, dude, One World, like the real show, and then Battle Royale were actually very similar seasons. I'm thinking about it. It was basically guys versus girls, it seemed like, and the girls ended up going on a tear and outnumbering the guys pretty quick out of nowhere. And Kim played a pretty perfect game. I wouldn't say Sam's played a perfect game. I don't think, honestly, anybody really has in Survivor at all. In our Survivor Whitewater, people have come close, but not as dominant as Kim was, because Kim was just so much better than everybody else there. I think they definitely have similar approaches to the game. But yeah, Sam is definitely a tough one. She's definitely probably a combination of some people as well. But Kim, I mean, they're both really good players, and they both, played in like All-Star S season and proved they were still good, and they tried making a move even if it was too late. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I will say this: the closest we've had to a perfect game is definitely Darius in season 3.
Yeah.
But he didn't pull out.
Yeah, if he won, he would have.
He might have actually had a close to perfect game because he was just so much better than everyone else.
Yeah.
Similar to him. Moving on, we have Hunter, who is very similar to Nick Wilson. Hunter's another person we wanted to get right because we wanted to pay respect to his skills, similar to Nick Wilson, who is actually a very disrespected winner when he really shouldn't be. Yeah. I mean, I really liked Nick's season. I thought he was really good. I mean, he named all of his alliances, and Hunter did the same thing with the dude wipes. I mean, very similar. He does a good job of keeping his personal one-on-one and then his group alliances intact. He does a good job of making that person who's getting voted out feel comfortable, which is the same thing Nick did. And I think that really rings home the Hunter's game. I think 2 of his biggest strengths. Also are pretty decent at challenges, although I think Hunter might be a little better than Nick. Although, just it depends on the challenge. I mean, Hunter's always gone pretty far when he plays, and then Nick, I mean, he went pretty far at Winners at War, and then he won this season, so definitely for sure. Love you, Hunty.
Yeah, definitely Hunter. And then Hunter and Legends and Nick and Winners at War, both like the biggest seasons of Survivor Whitewater and the real show. They both, early on, like Nick ended up making it pretty far and Hunter didn't. But Nick kind of like fell in the background a little bit and wasn't willing to work with some people. He kind of just cut them off no matter what. And Hunter will admit this. I've talked to him. That kind of happened early on with Hunter. He wasn't really willing to work with Adam. He wasn't really willing to work with Christian or Kathy. And that might have been their downfall. It was Hunter's for sure. Yeah. And yeah, and that's might have what happened with Hunter and Nick. Obviously, he ended up making it further because I think there was just bigger threats to fry. Like, I think Hunter's a bigger threat than Nick because Hunter came back and proved he's a really good player, especially in Battle Royale. So they're definitely similar how do they approach the game, and they're definitely, willing to make that personal connection. Hunter did that with the women a lot. Nick didn't really do that with the women and when he played. At least he tried to. but Nick had that more with, some guys like Christian and Carl and some people, and yeah, they were, willing.
With Michelle and Winners at War.
Huh?
He was close with her. Nick was close with Michelle most of the game in Winners at War, I would say. But other than that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's about it.
Yeah, definitely. So Hunter, you're Nick Wilson. I mean,
both won the game.
It took us a while to come up with it. I told you when we were talking earlier this week that I was going to put a good amount of time into thinking about you, making sure I find someone that respected your game, and I think this is perfect.
Yeah, you guys both won too.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on, we have Corey. I mean, listen, Johnny Fairplay almost won his season. Some people think he should have won that season, although he took third, whatever. He could have very well won that season instead of Sandra. And he's just devious and he's evil. And that's Corey. Corey won a season. Corey straight up does not care. He talks probably top 5 most crap in Survivor history. And especially in Blood versus Water, where this guy was just calling people out, like when he called out Cody. It's just very similar to Johnny Fairplay's game style, where he just doesn't care. He's going to cause conflict, and that's how he's going to play. He's going to cause a conflict, and he's still going to get you to get out somehow. And that's just how it works. So, Corey, you're definitely Johnny Fairplay, and I don't think it's even a question.
Yeah, I think especially Corey, when he played in Blood vs. Water, is Johnny Fairplay. Season he won, he wasn't as Johnny Fairplay, but he still shows signs of that when he was willing to kind of try to pin the bigger threats against each other. Whether it worked or not, who knows? But he got him out. Johnny Fairplay wanted to get Rupert out, which was a blindside, kind of similar to getting Adam and Darius out. So they definitely have the same approach where they're evil and want to see people struggle in the game, and they're definitely both great characters and funny, and they're gonna glue you to the TV.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the last thing too, with Johnny lied about his grandma dying, and Corey lied about his girlfriend breaking up with him in Legends to try to get sympathy because he was worried that people thought he was going to be too big of a villainous target. And he was right. And him playing and acting a little bit sadder and probably just trying to act the part better, honestly probably calmed his game a little bit and probably did give him the right state of mind to work with Cody and was able to get himself through a couple more rounds. He was out the round right before the merge. Making the merge in Legends was hard. There's a lot of people. And he did make it pretty far in that regard. So definitely kudos to him. Moving on. Jake Hatch right here. Oh, my gosh. Jake is Rob C. From the quotes to the game style and everything in between. Like, there's just no way around it. I mean, Rob C has some of the funniest quotes I've ever seen. I mean, I remember I heard about him for years, me and Devin, talking about him. And finally, we just watched his season. And he had to be one of the funniest people I've ever seen. And that was Jake, especially in Legends. But his whole career, just dropping one-liners here, dropping one-liners there. And just hilarious, like Devin says, gluing you to the TV. And at the same time, similar, they're not really like, they do well in the tribal challenges, but they don't necessarily end up winning most individually challenges. At the end of the day, they rely heavily on their social and strategic game and using their social skills as strategy to strategically get people out. And I think Jake does that to a T, and I think Rob C does as well. And he's also considered as one of the greatest players of the actual show Survivor history, and I think that Jake is very similar in that regard.
Yeah, geez, I don't know if you said anything for me to say, but with Jake and Rob C, it's what Christian said, and I think as well. I mean, I can't even think of anything else really to say. I mean, they're similar players. Jake, with the confessionals was hilarious. Same with Rob C. Definitely when they're trying to make a big move and they make it, they'll let everyone know that they made it regardless. They don't care. I think the only difference is Rob C had a little more grip on like a bigger alliance than Jake ever has. Jake was on the bottom a lot of Legends, but they spoke their mind and
that's just
what?
That's just Legends though, right? With Jake?
Yeah,
I mean he was in a bigger alliance like Heroes versus Villains and stuff.
Yep, so that's basically the comparison there. Yeah,
definitely. And Jake, love you, man. Did great. I think this is a fair comparison for you. Moving on. We got Devin's brother Dylan, who is another hard person because Dylan has physical attributes. He competes well in challenges individually and tribally when he does choose to compete in them. yes, we know that you purposely sit out of some of them, Dylan. I can tell. Okay. And it's all strategy, and I feel like that's a little bit of ours as well, how you're so inconspicuously socially moving, and you just drop little seeds here and just say and be like, listen, like the biggest move of Dylan's game was looking at Sam being, listen, did you come for second place? And, I mean, it's ironic because Sam took his second place to Dylan, but I felt like that was a big ours kind of like comment. And I think at the same time, he's a kind of one of the challenge beasts in Survivor, but he's one with the big mind as well.
Yeah, I think if me and Dylan ever would have played together, it would have been similar to Aris and Vitas, the relationship there. Very similar, and Dylan definitely with Malcolm, the similarities are they're good at challenge. Obviously, Malcolm's won more than Dylan has, but Dylan was right there all the time, and they showed that they're not going to depend on that to win. Malcolm fell just short. My brother won like Aris did, and he ended up, building some relationships that were more important than winning some of those challenges like Aris did. And similar to when Aris came back and when my brother came back, they were just outshined a little bit and couldn't really get a foothold and really couldn't make those connections in a different season. So yeah, I think it's a very good combination as these attributes of both of these guys.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's really tough. We don't want to use multiple people for anyone. We really wanted to get it down to one. But some people are just so special and so comparative that it's just hard not to use multiple. So moving on, we have Devin. And so I'll speak to Devin a little bit,
Jeez.
Because obviously I'm sure Devin doesn't want to speak too much about himself. But, I mean, when it comes to Devin, very similar to Richard. The original villain of Survivor, he is the original villain of Survivor Whitewater, okay? Simple as that. But their play styles are so similar because you just can't help but want to be friends with Devin. You don't know if it's because you're scared to be against him. You don't know if it's because you like the guy. You just don't know. And you just watch people play with him. And he doesn't care about friendships. I mean, he says it all the time, And I think that Richard Hatch played the game very similar to Devin, especially in his first season. Obviously Richard never got the chance to use the idols and stuff like that. I think that's where Rick Devins comes into play a little bit more. But I think that their social game and, like, just being straight up like, hey, like, I really don't care. Like, I'll tell it to your face. Devin called out a guy for lying right to his face. I just felt like, call out Jack Trianza right to his face. You're lying to me. Devin told at Final Tribal Council, he made Bray England cry because he told her she did absolutely nothing. But was it the truth? Yeah. And, I think that I just felt that Richard is one of the greatest players of all Survivor. He'll always be considered. He's the first winner. He came up with all these ideas. And honestly, you could see, although he went out pretty early in some of the seasons, it was more because of his big target than anything else. And that you were getting worried because he was getting a little bit of a footing in the game. And when players like that getting a footing in a game, it's hard to beat them. And usually they get voted out because of fear. And that's pretty similar to the rest of Devin's career. I think Rick Devins, though, hits on Devin even more in the sense of that goofy side Devin brings. Devin brings such a goofy side. He loves the game of Survivor, very similar. I've seen Devin. He works hard. He's running around. I just could totally see Devin in the jungle, sprinting around, playing games, like tricking people that he's found the idol or whatever. He's just gallivanting. When he actually does have the idol, and people are just sitting there questioning the whole time, does Devin have it or not? And you know what he does? Devin found the first immunity idol, and I know it because randomly one day I just got a Snapchat from him, and it was him holding hidden immunity idol find, and I was like, what the heck is going on? And he's playing the game of Survivor at school. It was the coolest thing I ever seen, and I was infatuated with it right away. And, I just see a lot of Rick Devins and Devin Ulrich, just lovable personality, does a lot of media stuff. I mean, Devin, obviously, he hosts seasons, he makes a lot of these videos, and at the same time, Rick Devin's a weatherman. So they're very good personas on TV and just talking. And I think that overall, Rick Devin's personality is very similar to Devin. And I think that Richard Hatch's approach to the game is similar to Devin. And I think when you mix the two together, I mean, you kind of do get Devin, a little bit. So, kudos to you, Devin. You're one of the GOATs of Survivor Whitewater, and you got two of my personal favorite players of all time as well. So,
yeah, I appreciate the comparisons. Only the thing I'll just add to it is, with Richard Hatch, he was going to play in the big season of Winners at War in the real show, and he ended up not. I was maybe going to play in Legends. I didn't.
Pretty much the missing piece for Winners at War and pretty much the missing piece from Legends right there.
Yeah, and I see Rick Devins' last name's literally like my first name, so.
I mean, kind of match made in heaven, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about myself.
I think
Thanks.
I think that Richard's aura and respect around the Survivor community, no matter who it is talking about him and like his game. I think that hones true to the way people speak about Devin. Except the one thing that I feel, although Richard does have some spunk, I think he misses that fun-lovingness that I think that Rick Devins really does bring. And I think that's the other part that touches on Devin as well. So kudos to you, Mr. Almost 22. In a couple of days here, 3 days. So moving on here, we got the Kunazan himself, Darius. I mean, Devin, if you want to start talking about him first.
Yeah, Darius, I mean, at first, we thought when he first played the first time, we're like Troyzan. He literally is going to look like Troyzan when he's older. And then as Darius played again and again, he showed he's a way better player than Troyzan ever was, and he's Tyson. Tyson won the game, Darius never did, but they both are able to draw people in and kind of lead charges. Tyson led a really good alliance in Blood vs. Water. He ended up, fulfilling the prophecy and winning. Darius and Twistman had a really good alliance going, and no one could stop it until the very end. So that's the only difference. And I think
won that season. So yeah,
they're both pretty solid at challenges. Darius has definitely won a good amount actually in his career when I did the stats a while ago, and I know Tyson's done that even when he was older in Winners at War. He won the comeback challenge. Sometimes they solely try to rely on advantages or as Tyson more relationships sometimes, and that sometimes bites him in the ass. So I think they're literally the same player, and the only difference is Tyson won and Darius didn't, but Darius should have won Twist Manor. We all know that.
Yeah. And I mean, when it comes to Darius to comparison with Tyson, I mean, I'm just going to say it. Their voices sound eerily similar. Like, the way they talk and, like, the words that come out and kind of their sense of humor when they talk is eerily similar. And so he always had that comparison before even season 2 where, like, he kind of is like him. But the thing was Darius never really came into his own in the game until the second time he played. I feel like that's similar to Tyson. I mean, he played in Tocantins.
Yeah.
And Darius was dropping a lot of jokes, and he was an entertaining guy in Heroes vs. Villains, similar to Tyson. But Tyson never really came to his own either until later seasons. And then I think their careers towards the end were very similar. I mean, Darius, fans versus favorites, and Legends, he was a big target, and he was someone who was being targeted all the time, and the only reason he survived was an advantage or some sort of quirk in the game that kept him alive for a little bit longer than people wanted him around just because they were afraid of him because he is so good at the game. And Darius always has a big reputation. Some reason Vin always wants him out. I mean, probably because he's afraid that Darius does something that Vin also does very well, which is rope people in and lead charges. So kudos to you, Darius. Tyson's one of the GOATs. You're one of the GOATs of Survivor. Whitewater, it's just how it is. So yeah, moving on. We have Vin. And Vin, you don't know who the hell this guy is because I don't think you've seen season 42. And I'm telling you, I thought you were Earl for the longest time just because, it was about as similar as you could get. But there just wasn't someone who was really you because you were one of those people who are just such an original human being, it's not even funny. Like it was so hard to figure you out. And then me and Devin were just like, he's like Mike from this last season, 42, where Mike dominated the game the same way Vin has dominated the game. Socially, with some strategy that you don't even realize. Vin always has a bromance going on. I mean, when he played with me, it was usually with me. But he always has a bromance going on, and he played, with Kyle as well. He has a guy that he builds hard relationships, and he tries to stick to him and stick to his word as much as he can. But he does stab people in the back and doesn't always want to own up to stabbing them back. Vin's way of doing it sometimes was not writing down their names. Mike just would be like, listen, like, you were coming for me. I had word you're coming for me, this and that. And, sometimes although I think one thing Vin is a little bit better than Mike is at Final Tribal because Vin was able to speak himself into a win. I think that in Legends, I think that he was more similar to Mike in that aspect. But overall, I think they both played very similar games. And They're both from New Jersey, actually, believe it or not, and they both are obsessed with pizza. So it's perfect.
Yeah, Vin.
Garlic bread.
Yeah, Vin's definitely is tough to go like Collin. They're two of the most original people I've ever met, and I love them both. And Vin definitely, he won. Mike never won. He's only played once in the real show. But
he
Vin,
took second, so.
What?
He took second, so.
Yeah, no, exactly, and I think definitely it showed too when in Mike's final tribal council in 42 and Vin's final tribal council in Legends, they both didn't really. The jury wasn't really liking their responses, wasn't really owning up, which sucks. But that's a similarity where sometimes they just got to own up their game a little more. Obviously, Mike lost to Richie's comparison, Marianne, in 42 then, which is only a little difference. Obviously, you've won and Richie has not. But it's really hard to pinpoint everything. But Mike's as close as we're gonna get, and if you watch him, he's a really good ass player. And I think hopefully Mike comes back and plays. And you guys are very similar. And I think as well another thing too is as soon as like Christian said, kind of like in 42, Mike heard someone was coming for him, and he voted him off immediately. And in Legends, when Christian and Jake voted Emily off. That next round, Vin's like, well, he voted for my girlfriend. I'm voting for him. There's no fucking question. And it didn't work out for Vin, but they kind of have that same mindset when if you cross me first, I'm coming for you right. I'm gonna try to come for you right away, right next. So
right, and I think it's funny that he wasn't so upset about that, considering his girlfriend and he had complete knowledge of it was voting me out. So I thought that was kind of funny. But I think it's similar to Mike, where they always have their own reasons. Their mind is just set on that reason. And they might not always want to think about it from a full perspective. But at the same time, I think Mike's humor also on the show was very similar to Vince's humor, which is really rare to say because Vince's humor is so unique and he's just a funny guy. I think Mike was just a funny guy. And same way that Mike made a lot of friends on the show that he'll be friends with for life, and whenever he sees them, very exciting. When Vin walks in the room in a Survivor Whitewater kind of area, he's one of the most loved people immediately. He's awesome. So I think it was a great comparison. Vin, I think if you were to watch season 42, you'd love the comparison. It's awesome. Both dominated seasons, so both great strategists and rely heavily on their social game. So I think it was a pretty solid comparison. So moving on, man. We have Vin's girlfriend, Emily, Sarah, Lucina. Simple as that. Both rely heavily on their social game. They both align usually with a big guy. Sarah aligned with Culpepper and Tony. Emily aligned with Vin both times, and they kind of almost ran the show with letting the other people feel like they're running the show. That's kind of their strategy, and they're not hiding. They're in plain sight. They just let other people think that they're doing it and they're mischievous about it. They both have a very good personality. At the same time, when they have their alliance with all the guys, they usually also have another thing going on with some of the girls, and they're able to get in with the girls, and they find out all the information they need to know. I mean, you saw Emily do that a ton in Legends. Saw Sarah do that a lot in Winners at War and in Game Changers. So, Emily, great comparison for you, I think.
Yeah, and I think as well, Emily wasn't afraid to take some risk. When I had a couple of challenges when I'd say, if you give up your spot for an advantage, you have a chance to win an advantage. Sarah did that in Game Changers, and it, kind of worked out for both of them. Obviously Sarah has won the game, Emily hasn't, but they both had, Sarah came close, her, third time playing to win again. Emily came very close and played excellent, in Blood vs. Water and Legends. And, another part of them, too, is what ends up happening is on a lot of people's lists for Sarah Lucina, they rank her almost as the top girl, which I don't know if I agree with that personally. I think Parvati still is. But that Emily, wasn't the top girl probably. And then she outplayed Kathy. She never really played with, I guess she played in the same season with Bree Nevers. She outplayed her. So she outplayed the best girls. And you're like, well, you got to give the flowers where the flowers are due. And that's what happened with Sarah Lucina. She outdueled Suri in Game Changers, where it's like, well, Suri could still be better, but she kind of outpassed her. And then Sarah, did outplay Parvati in Winners at War. So they kind of passed the girls, and they proved that they're some of the best players that we've ever seen, regardless of gender.
Yeah, and their resumes, it's right there. And they both kind of have the same attitude of I don't care if you're a guy. Like, I can hang with the boys kind of attitude. Emily has had that her whole life. I mean, she's always got that chip on her shoulder. I think she gets it from her dad. But at the same time, her mom, honestly, probably more, if I'm being honest. But you know what? They both got that chip on their shoulder, and they prove everyone wrong. Not that anyone really thinks anything bad of Emily in the first place, but they're both amazing people outside the game as well. But when it comes to competition, you don't want to be on the wrong side of them, because let me tell you, it is very tricky to beat them.
I'll add this too with Emily is when Emily got out, the 2 times she got out, it came out with a bang. A rock draw, and Jake's fucking move with Christian to get her ass out. And then with Sarah Lucina, and fucking the first time she played with Kagian, it was a big-ass move with Tony getting her ass out too, and it was wild. So every time they go out with a bang, because they're good-ass players.
Exactly. You can't take out great players like her without something crazy happening.
And that's
I think that
me and
speaks
Christian
a lot
well.
to like someone like you as well. You know,
you
like
too.
when Richard Hatch went out, it was a big bang. You know, when players go out and it's a big bang, it's super hard to get them out. When they do, it's a big deal, and people are almost shook because they just are like, "Wow, this happened." I think that speaks a lot to people's games and their target levels. If you just sit there and watch people's reactions when they go out. And I think Emily's one prime example of that.
I think Emily's definitely one. I think me and you, I mean, one time you get out with like 2 idols or whatever, and then in Blood vs. Water is like, I've never seen a room so quiet. And then with me, I've gotten, besides the first time, I mean, I got out Final Four. It's kind of obvious I was going out. But then the other 2 times I played, I got out because of an idol. Cody, when he's gone out, it's like, fuck, holy shit. Adam, same. Something crazy has to happen, and it's kind of like
more
shocking.
of a relief every time he goes out, man. I'm not gonna lie. I think everyone takes a big sigh.
But it's a big deal. Always, it's like shit. He's out.
Oh yeah, it's always a big deal. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, same with Adam. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, Darius too. Like definitely, there's some people out there. Kathy, honestly, has kind of had that reputation. People are like, oh my gosh, she went out. That's crazy. Bree Nevers early on. Like, I remember hearing that she went out in Twist Manor early and just being like, wait, really? That's crazy. So, all right. So, moving on. We have Adam. And Adam, you know, the way you analyze the game and, like, the numbers and stuff, we said you were you, but honestly, no. You were Spencer. Spencer Bledsoe, one of the smartest players ever to play Survivor. I mean, both strategic threats, both very, very smart in the game, both honestly do very well in challenges, and have the ability to dominate a game. And at times, one of their downfalls is just at times, sometimes they upset people or rub them the wrong way for whatever reason. Honestly, not even usually justified. Usually it's like, you know, how about you own up to your game? And Adam's not afraid to call people out the same way Spencer does. And sometimes it just doesn't work out for them. And when Spencer went out and Kagan, it was a really big deal. Then he made the final 3. And when Adam goes out, it's always fireworks. So...
yeah, I think it's definitely a great comparison. He is a little bit of Yule too. Yule and Spencer are two of the smartest players ever played Survivor. Adam's definitely the smartest player that's played Survivor Whitewater. And sometimes they overanalyze things, which costs them. Yule and Winners at War overanalyzed the coins or whatever the hell they were called. And I think that was his downfall. Adam overanalyzed, you know, let's put Christian's name down because it's going to save him for a tiebreaker for whatever reason, and that, you know, threw Adam off for a few rounds. He was able to survive a little bit longer, and then Spencer has been put in really shitty situations to start, and they both have been able to dig themselves out of it. And similar to Spencer, they came so close to winning multiple times. Spencer is probably a top 5 favorite player of mine, and obviously Adam is too. They're both entertaining to watch, and they're both like quietly spoken, but they'll say some shit that's really funny that you got to like rewind it because you got to turn it up and hear what they said because it's hilarious. And they definitely are like mathematical how they explain things, which is great, and it's, you know, great to see.
Yeah, I mean, Adam, there's got to be video of it somewhere. I forget what episode, but Legends, just me and his conversation with numbers and stuff like that. It just wowed me. Like, that conversation was so deep, so strategic. It was fun, and we didn't really get a lot of conversations. We had a lot of relying on head nods and ups and downs and just having to kind of read symbols and signs of each other's faces. And I think part of the over analytics sometimes, like with Adam can be his downfall for sure, similar to Spencer. And I mean, like you said, that one move where he wrote down my name, he thought he was saving me, but I think he overthought it so much to the point he missed out on a crucial rule in the game where that wouldn't have happened because there's a revote first. And I think that's what caused all this confusion in his head. And then when he came over, he was confused and he was telling me, but he was giving me half words and half sentences, and it wasn't making sense to me. And obviously, I'm a chaotic player, and I kind of blew up and feel bad about that part of blowing up. I apologize, Adam, but all I got really was like, you wrote my name down, and you made a mistake, and you're sorry. And I didn't really know what that meant. Obviously, it meant he was doing something very strategically right in his mind, but it was almost over strategic for that round where it didn't need to be. And I think Spencer has gotten like that at times as well. But at the same time, they're able to recover from it. I mean, Adam was able to recover from it, and Spencer as well. And they both still play the game hard. And when you see Adam feels like he's going home, I mean, watch the challenges that he competes in next, where he feels like he's going home. Spencer has done the same thing, where they're about to go home, and then they win a challenge because you just see the look and drive in their eyes. And I think that's something that's very similar with those two as well.
Yeah, Spencer's definitely good at challenges. I kind of forgot about that as well. I think Adam's probably a little better, but Spencer has won a lot, actually, of challenges. And, yeah, they both are, two of the best to ever win, both universes. So.
Yeah, exactly. And both players I would love to see play again because I think they both always, every time they're on the court, they got a chance to get a bucket, at the end of the day. So, moving on, we have Cody, who utilizes Jeremy's shield strategy in Survivor Whitewater to a T. I mean, he did it to me. So, Cody, congrats, buddy. You deserve it. You're one of the all-time greats. And so is Jeremy. It's pretty simple. They're both for some reason, you know they're dangerous. The whole time you know they're dangerous, you're talking to them. And you probably shouldn't believe them. But for some reason you believe them, and for some reason you just find yourself wanting to work with them. And then when you go out, for some reason, you're just not that mad at them. Like, you're still going to write down their name to win. And that's something Cody has done to me in Season 2 and to other people in other seasons. And he does such a good job of hiding it from the person going out that they're going home, but at the same time hiding his plan, but having sheerly large numbers in it, and always having another person that he's working with that's bigger than him that he can try to get voted out. And I think he did that to a T, and is why he has been so successful in Survivor Whitewater.
Yeah, he's definitely Jeremy. I mean, I saw it the first time he even played, and, I played with him personally, too, very deep into a game, and it was the same thing. I mean, they both used a safety without power, Jeremy and Cody, to a T, and Cody still was trying to make me believe that, he wasn't doing that to get me out, even though he did, basically. So, yeah, he definitely is a person that he's trying to make a move, but you don't want to believe it, and you still want to work with him. He's very approachable. He definitely can handle such situations very well, and can definitely just rope people in that you wouldn't think he'd rope in. Like, in the season I played with him, he was able to rope me in after I blindsided his biggest ally. Jeremy was able to kind of bring Spencer in towards the end and go all the way to the end with him. So he's definitely, can be analytical and definitely uses the meat strategy as well. And then, they both kind of had similar endings with Jeremy and Winners at War and Cody and Legends, where they were just such big threats that, like, it was just time to go early in the merge, and there's nothing really they could do about it. Just their past reputation is so high that you literally would have to probably win out every challenge or find a bunch of idols, and yeah.
And honestly, the way he went out in Legends is very similar to Jeremy at Winners at War. I mean,
that's what I just said.
Yeah, I know. Like, it really is. Like, I can't even, like, I'm like lost for words. It's just it's so, it really is. I mean, to the point even where people wanted to work with Jeremy, kind of the way that I remember I was about to work with Cody and Legend, but there's just too many people around me in my ear going like, it's probably not the best idea to keep working with them. We all kind of want to work with them, but that's kind of a problem that we all kind of want to work with them, and he's starting to do it again. And that idea of, oh, he's starting to do it again, we should probably get it done now. And then there's one person who's advocately against him, kind of similar with Emily trying to get him out. I mean, similar situation with Jeremy, where there's really only one person really advocating, and everyone's like, wow, he's starting to do it again. And so that it's just because they're so dangerous. It's all respect.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, moving on. I'm not going to talk. So, really, kid? Picture?
Yeah, so Christian, yes, I rank him as number one. I'm Irish Survivor Whitewater. Boston Rob and Tony are my 1 and 2 for the real show. And Christian has sprinkles of both of them. I think you are a little more Boston Rob than Tony at the end of the day. I just think that picture is fucking spot on. The Boston Rob thing, I think it was pretty similar where you've done so well and then you came back and you didn't have a fucking chance and got out right away, similar to Boston Rob. And then you finally won a season and it was the biggest relief of your probably life. And then, Tony, the thing with Tony and you as well, it's similar is Tony, won the first season. You didn't. That first season he was on, you didn't win the first one, but you dominated the season. You guys come back, are kind of chaotic at first, even though you probably really weren't, but Tony was, and you guys got out right away because your threat level was so fucking big and compared to everybody else. And then you guys come back. I'm not even going to talk about blood versus water really with Tony, but with Tony and you in the biggest seasons, you guys come and somehow are able to lower your profile and somehow are able to convince people to not vote for you when it's pretty obviously they should for their own sake and to try to win the game. And, you ended up, winning the biggest season and Tony did. And, I mean, it's tough. It's honestly pretty tough to compare you two. It's really tough because you are actually really original too. You do put personas on as Boston Rob and Tony when you play sometimes, but you're definitely a mix of a lot of people and you're definitely your own person with that. And I think that's finally what came in for fully on in Legends because I honestly think you were trying a little too hard to be some of them sometimes and you finally just were yourself in Legends. And obviously you have similar mindsets and similar strategies to them because who wouldn't want to take strategies from two of the best to ever do it? And you finally put it all together and you kind of honestly molded yourself into be your own player. And I think that's why you actually won, to be honest. So, yeah, you're a little bit of Boston Rob and Tony, two of the best to ever do it. So, yeah, I think that's pretty fitting. And you're definitely entertaining, definitely come off as a villain even though you're really not trying to be. More in the interviews per se than to their face, which is similar to Boston Rob and Tony in interviews. I would say you guys have moments where you'll say something because it's like, are you kidding me? I'm sorry, it's just like ridiculous. And you have to say, even though you're not trying to be a dick, where we've seen Boston Rob and Tony do that, especially like Llama, like really? So, yeah, and you're definitely able to, pick some of the more chaotic players and, ride with them and kind of make them feel good, similar to you with Richie and Legends, similar with Boston Rob with Philip Shepard when he won, where you guys, you didn't bring Richie to the end, like Boston Rob brought Phil to the end, but, you put up with some players that you probably didn't want to put up with that honestly helped you because they're a pretty big threat and people are very annoyed at some of the people sometimes and to be like, well, that's an easy vote to just get out whenever. So, yeah.
Thanks, dude. I mean, the only thing I gotta say is really the top left picture. Come on. I don't even know what that's from. Don't say if I were to shave my chops, I can have the same goatee as a Boston Rob. That's about it. Where we kind of like can't grow that last little part of the goatee in the middle. It's kind of tough. Yeah.
And you're just missing the Tony tattoo now.
Gosh.
And
it's funny. If you were to mix those pictures, I mean, I was dressed in a black tank top. I remember the first time. Literally, it was two Tony and Boston Rob. They are like two of my favorites. So.
Yeah, I definitely think you're very similar to both of them. And then at the end of the day, I think you put it all together and you took sprinkles of both their games and Legends, but you also made it your own, which I think is why you won. To be honest with you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I will be honest, I definitely at times was trying to be Boston Rob a little bit. I mean, Milwaukee Chris. I mean, come on, where do you think that comes from?
But and that's the entertainment value that we love. And then when it really mattered the most, you turned it off and you won.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the comparisons. I mean, to the viewers, I hope you enjoyed the comparisons. I hope everyone really did. We thought long and hard about each person, and it was not easy to come up with. But at the same time, we really wanted to ring home and true to each person's personalities and what they brought to Survivor Whitewater. We're probably going to do a few more videos, like top 5 or 10 moves, 5 or 10 quotes, stuff like that. So definitely look forward to that as well.
Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. still like and, comment if you want to say anything else. As you know, Survivor Whitewater is coming to a close, and Survivor Wisconsin might be happening soon. So, we're trying to enjoy this a little bit longer. As this will always be the OG. This will always be the best thing we've ever done. And this is gonna, pretty soon be the past and a whole different thing, and we're gonna have a whole other thing. So, thanks for watching, guys, and stay up to date, with other videos coming soon, like Christian said.
Yep. All right, we'll see you guys. Bye.
Bye.